Hey, what's going on, everybody? It is Aaron Trevino, and we have a wonderful guest here today. We have Collin Gibbs from the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. What's going on, Collin?
Hey, how's it going, buddy? It's been a while.
It sure has. It's great to see you.
You too. So what's been going on?
Yeah, so where are you living right now?
So right now I'm in Arlington, just south of I-20.
Okay, very good. Now, I know you lived in Austin. We met in college, but are you originally from Arlington, or what took you there?
So half my family lives in the DFW area. I was born in Fort Worth, but I grew up south of Houston. So kind of made the whole round trip around Texas.
Fair enough. I don't know if this is true. Is it true that people from the Dallas-Fort Worth area hate it being called DFW?
That's a great question. I haven't heard that before. Uh, I mean, all of my family that's lived up here forever always refers it to DFW.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
I don't know, maybe more the Dallas side because I feel like they like to be their own city instead of grouped.
Oh,
But
okay.
I feel like Fort Worth likes to bleed off of the bigger city.
Sure, absolutely. So what's Arlington like compared to the rest of the Metroplex?
Probably a little calmer, and I know definitely coming from Austin, a lot calmer than Austin. Rush hour is still a thing, but it's not a standstill like 35 in Austin is. 20 gets bad, but it's a lot calmer than uh, Dallas for sure and Austin.
Yeah, fair enough. So for those of us who don't know, could you kind of introduce yourself and tell us a bit about you?
Sure. Already introduced Collin. I actually just graduated college with a degree in aerospace engineering, and since it is COVID, I am still looking for a job, which is a great thing to do right now. But yeah, I've grown up, lived all my life in Texas. Um, Man, what else should I talk about?
Yeah, no, you have could you explain the background behind you? I know we spoke a little earlier about that.
What do you mean
Oh,
background?
sorry, I meant the background, like the wooden panes
Oh,
behind you.
legit.
Yeah, yeah, poor choice of words, sorry.
Oh, dude, I thought you were talking about me, myself, and I, not
No.
physically the background. Oh, yeah. So, um, I always like to find opportunities whenever they arise. So, since everything is COVID right now and online, I figured, hey, I might want to keep my eye out for something that I could turn into a good looking backdrop instead of just having the back of a room, which mine's not the cleanest. But you can't tell that now. But so I went to a salvage store called Dirt Cheap where they buy salvaged freight. And I found 4 boxes of wood flooring. And I kind of measured out my room, figured out the biggest kind of thing I could build here. And it was about 24 square foot. And 4 boxes was 24 square foot. So I picked those up and it was a very good deal since it was a salvage place. And I just kind of threw it together. So that's the correct answer to what my background is.
That's right. I like it. I like it. So were you kind of on the hunt for maybe a do-it-yourself kind of project, or how did you just stumble upon this?
Kind of both, I guess. I don't, since I just graduated college and still trying to find work, I hate not being busy. I'm definitely a person that has to have something to do. So I keep my eye out to keep myself busy, and I had the idea that I kind of wanted to build something back there, and it just was at the right place in the right time and found exactly what I needed. So it just kind of worked itself out.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's, only a small little microcosm of what you've done so far. So I think you had kind of a little project. Could you tell us a bit about it?
Oh yeah. So when I moved from Austin, I moved up to go to UTA up here, and I lived with some family members for a little bit. But I have a dog, and kind of didn't work so well because the yard they didn't have a yard, so I kind of wanted to find something with the yard. So I ended up purchasing a house in Arlington, and I got it for a pretty good deal. So I knew that it was going to be one of those things that needed some help, and I spent just over a year into a renovation And a couple months ago, finishing touches were done, and I'm done with it. I I pretty much gutted the house, did everything from floors to ceiling. Yeah, so touched everything. Um, but I mean, I can send you some pictures if you want to throw them up too, because it's quite a big deal here. Um, so yeah, I redid my kitchen, my bathroom, master bedroom, guest bedroom, living room, and my laundry room slash pantry. And I don't think that there isn't anything in this house that I haven't touched.
I like that. No, you yeah, a few weeks ago you sent me some pictures of it. And it looked beautiful, man. It looked you did a terrific job.
Thanks, man. Appreciate that.
Yeah, no, I'm just interested as well. Like what kind of motivated you to even do something like this?
So I, as a lot of people I'm sure that are watching this podcast, Rich Dad Poor Dad, the book kind of took me on a journey there, and I knew that whenever I was looking for this house, that I wanted to find something where I could fix it up, live in it for a bit until I outgrew it. Since we were talking earlier, I am engaged, so eventually going to get married, and family will come shortly after that. Well, hopefully not that shortly after that, but shortly after that, and then we'll outgrow this house. But I definitely wanted to find something where I could keep it and rent it out and get some cash flow from that. So always better to find a good deal, especially when you're looking for something like that. So that's kind of where I was turning to, wanted to find something to renovate. And again, I like being busy. So it was a heck of a journey, but I had a great time with it.
Yeah, it sounds like it was a lot of fun. What specifically in Rich Dad Poor Dad kind of struck a chord in you and motivated you?
Oh man, just I guess the opportunity of what's out there with real estate. And uh, that's a good question. I haven't thought of that for a while. Look at you with the good question. Yeah, I guess just the opportunities that are out there, and I have found quite a passion with learning about it. And uh, investment, I've been trying to find my home, I guess you could call it, in investing for a while. And just after reading and doing all my research, this is what just struck a chord. I don't know if there's one thing that I can pinpoint with it that is why I chose it over other things, but yeah, something just clicked, and I ended up loving it because I guess it might turn back to, I like to work with my hands and keep busy, so it's something I can physically do and not on a computer or something like that. So I mean, I guess that's kind of why.
Absolutely. And you also have, obviously you have the engineering mind given your background, right?
That too.
Yeah, but no, that's a pretty neat project to do. So I'm just curious, what was the process like? Like how did you know where to start first with this rehab project?
I did not know where to start first. We just kind of, because I had originally was hoping, because at the time one of my in-laws had a a construction company, and I was hoping that we might be able to get him to come and show me how to do some things, so that it might be easier. But uh, things fell through, and that's all right. But had no idea where to start, so I just knew I wanted to start with the thing that would make the biggest difference. So I started in the kitchen, and it was originally just going to start with the kitchen, and the cabinets came out, the floors came up, and my as I wanted the same flooring throughout the entire house, since it's only a 900 square foot house. So it's I thought it would look really good with all the same flooring throughout, and it does look really good with all the flooring same throughout. So we started ripping up the flooring and realized that, oh well, if I want to do all the same flooring, I can't really just cut a line. I got to just keep going. So we had the cabinets down and then just started ripping out all the flooring. And honestly, that came to one of the hardest parts of doing it while living in it. Is it's a 2-bed, 1-bath house. So I had a bathroom sink and a kitchen sink. Those are the only sinks and running water besides the bathtub that I have in the house. So whenever the kitchen came out, I lost my kitchen sink. So, and again, I kind of knew what I was getting myself into, but it was a lot of learning as I went. So the kitchen did end up taking a little bit longer than I was hoping. It took about a week and a half before I got from when I pulled the sink out to when I got the sink back in. So for a week and a half, I was living out of my bathroom sink and bathtub, doing dishes, cooking. Cooking was not really a thing. I had my microwave, so that was a rough part. Yeah, but it ended up working out pretty well. We threw everything back together, and then from there, we just kind of started working throughout the rest of the house. But yeah, had no idea where to start. There was no real rhyme or reason to why I picked there. It was one of those things where we had to decide, and that's where we picked.
Absolutely. So when you said you were working on the kitchen, I mean, what specifically were you doing in the kitchen?
So we started, and I'll send you pictures so it kind of makes a little bit more sense.
Sure.
But when we started in the kitchen, there was a soffit that ran around the entire ceiling of the kitchen, and then from that, the cabinets went down, and they were short cabinets. They might have been like 30 inches instead of the full ceiling height, which is like 42. I'm not 100% sure about that. But so we took out the soffit. Um, all the cabinets came out, so all new cabinets, all new countertops, all new flooring. And luckily we only ran into one issue with that soffit, and there was a vent pipe from the sink drain and the dishwasher drain that ran up through there. So we were able to vent it out in a different, reroute it and vent it so that we could just put a flat cabinet up there instead of having to cut a hole in the back of the cabinet. And from there, there's an archway that goes from the living room to the kitchen. So now instead of having an archway, there is it's more open concept, I guess you'd call it now. And then the other thing we did in there was it goes out to the living room and the laundry room, pantry. And so we moved a door from there to give room, because the way it was set up, if you were to put a kitchen table in there, it didn't really fit where the door was. So we moved the door over to make a kitchen table fit. And we added extra, instead of just replacing the cabinets, we added extra cabinets because it's a very large kitchen for the house. So we ended up adding, I'm calling it a peninsula, but you could also call it like an island or a bar or something like that. But that was pretty much the scope of the kitchen. It was a very long project.
Sure. I'm just curious. I mean, was this I know you mentioned it was kind of on the fly. I mean, were you relying on other professional people on your team, or were you relying on YouTube videos or Google, or how are you getting these ideas?
I really wish I could say that I was relying on professionals that were helping me with this. But literally everything in this house was done by me and my dad. Um, so it was we used a lot of, because he's an engineer too, so we used a lot of engineering knowledge to make sure that we weren't going to like tear the house down whenever we were doing this. The things that we couldn't figure out, YouTube. It's amazing what things you can learn in YouTube. Uh, Plumbing. One of the most frightening things I did in this house was replace a water heater by my, and because I've never copper soldered or anything like that. Luckily, there's things where you don't have to copper solder, turns out, which made this a whole lot easier. But that was one of those things where YouTube came in really handy to show me what I needed to do so I could have hot water.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what do they say? The most dangerous part of the house is the water heater.
Yeah, I could see that. Mine. So we went from a tanked one to a tankless one. So luckily, the worst thing that could happen from that, I guess burning down the house is pretty bad because it has two 8-gauge wires that go to it, so it's holding a lot of power there. So yeah, burning down the house could be bad. So dangerous there, but I don't have any pressure in mine, which is good.
Fair enough. So could you kind of maybe go through, having a tank versus tankless? Like what's the reason, or what are the pros and cons between those?
So the reason that I went tankless, there's pros and cons for both. But the for me, it fit my situation better because, again, small house. So I needed to maximize pretty much every inch of space I got. So it enabled me to actually build a usable pantry because the way it was laid out is, so again, laundry room and pantry is in the same room. And mm, at least 50% of the area that I have is my pantry, up by the water heater. And we were able to shrink it down to maybe a 1 foot by 2 foot little box, which was awesome. And um, yeah, that's really the only reason that I went tankless. Um, yeah, pros and cons. Hmm. I guess the pro for tankless is you don't have to. There's no no pressure. It won't explode, which they have lots of safety in the tanked ones to do that. So they don't. It's kind of rare that happens, but it does happen. Big con for the tankless ones is if if the house wasn't torn apart as it was when we were going through it, I would have never been able to do it because we had to not completely rewire, but we had to run those two 8-gauge wires, which my old water heater did not have. So we had to, since our breaker box is right outside the kitchen, whenever we were taking down the cabinets, we had some drywall down too, which gave us direct access to that breaker box. So it made it really easy. But again, if that wasn't there, that wouldn't have been possible.
Absolutely. So how did you know that you even needed to do this with the water heater? Did someone suggest it to you, or you just kind of found out along the way?
So I had heard, I mean, every house I've ever been in has had a tanked water heater. But through all the renovation shows and whatnot, some of them I've seen tankless water heaters come in, and I guess somewhere in my memory it just sparked, hey, oh yeah, there's these tiny little things that you can replace these big old water heaters with. So we should do that in this house. That's a great idea. Because my water heater um, it was 18 years old, so it was definitely past its prime. And if we didn't replace it, chances are something would have happened to it. So we were looking at replacing it no matter what, and doing tankless ended up being not similar in price. So it definitely had some benefits that worked here.
Yeah, absolutely. So aside from the kitchen, I mean, where next? Were you kind of working on the house next?
So from the kitchen, we went to the living room, and living room wasn't as exciting as the kitchen. Mostly just flooring in the living room. Um, so we had the flooring, and then it's a vaulted ceiling, so I put a beam up there, redid the light fixture. So living room wasn't as exciting as kitchen. Sorry to let you down there, but we went for the biggest thing first, and then from the living room, got a hallway that branches off into the guest bedroom and the master bedroom. And guest bedroom, similar. I just redid the flooring in there because it was not a whole lot I could do in it. It's a smaller room, and it was in decent shape. But redid the floors there. Master, redid the floors in the master, and it was originally had one of the closets that's just built into the wall, so just a flat wall where you open up the door, and it's just got some closet rods. Decided that if my fiance and I are going to live in this house for a little bit, we needed a bigger closet. So I built out the closet into a full walk-in, which I had never built a wall before and had never secured a wall to a slab before.
Mm.
So YouTube, very interesting. So I got some tools, and I built a wall and a walk-in closet, and that was pretty cool. I'm really happy with that. Okay, so I said my dad and I did everything. The only thing we didn't do was texture, because I figured it was more time and money to buy all the stuff we needed to texture 90% of a house than it was just to hire somebody to do it.
Yeah.
So that was the one thing we didn't do was texture. And that was also probably one of the messiest things that we did in this house. So from master, we got the bathroom off the master, and new floors in there. It started out with just a pedestal sink, so I got a nice vanity in there, repainted. I redid tile in the shower because it's one of the tubs that has a shower too. So I redid the tiling in there, and after that, so the pantry was the last thing that I ended up doing with the water heater. That was what we just finished a couple months ago, and so whenever we moved that door for the kitchen, like I was talking about, so we moved it further away from the exterior wall. And originally the washer and dryer were pushed up against the exterior wall. So we moved it over, and we were able to turn them from the exterior wall to the wall that pairs up with the garage. So you actually have kind of a walk-in laundry room. And then getting rid of that water heater, we were able to build a full floor-to-ceiling pantry, which I think it looks really good. I'm pretty proud of that one. Yeah, that's. Am I missing anything now? I think that's pretty much the whole house. And as quickly as I described that, it took about 1.5 years to do. So I made it sound real easy.
So what do you think was the most time-consuming or difficult part?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. The flooring, I mean, just because there was so much of it, if I was to pick one thing, probably the flooring. It was really easy, but since it went from, it was the entire floor in the house, it took a bit. But honestly, though, if difficult wise, the kitchen, because building cabinets, making sure that countertops match up right. Because I did wood counter, but the butcher block countertops, it was budget friendly. And again, since I'm thinking about renting, if someone beats up a butcher block countertop, I'm gonna be okay with that because I can replace that pretty easy. But if they break some granite or something like that, that's not gonna go so well. So went with the butcher block, and again, I can install it. I can't install granite or no, not slate. Shoot, what's the other kind of countertop? Oh well, I can't install stone countertops, but we were able to do the wood, the butcher block ones. But yeah, making sure the cuts are perfectly square so that they match up nice. Because with that peninsula, I had some weird seams to do, and that was a stressful part because there was a lot of test fitting and trying again with that. And yeah, getting the cap because yeah, two of us mounted an entire kitchen worth of wall cabinets, not just the base cabinets though. We did the wall cabinets too, and that took some. I'm glad we're engineers because that helped a lot there. Leverage is your friend. But yeah, that was the kitchen was definitely the hardest part.
Yeah, I would imagine. Could you kind of maybe elaborate more on Butcher Box and what what exactly it is?
Sure, yeah. Butcher blocks are just I think the ones I got are about uh it's a little the whole cabinet is 2x2s glued together to make it's pretty much a cutting board as your countertop. And they're very popular in the farmhouse style houses. So if you're watching HGTV or something like that, you'll probably come across some butcher block countertops. But they're really easy to. Some people say they're really hard to take care of, but we did the kitchen first, so I've had my butcher blocks for about a year. No stains, no discoloration, no nothing, no warping, which is what a lot of people say that they have a problem with. But since I knew that people had issues with those, I made sure to seal them a little bit extra because it does go around my sink and over my dishwasher, which is where you'll get water damage from butcher block countertops. So I definitely made sure to seal those extra. But it's wood. You can stain them. I don't think I would paint them, but you can stain them, and there are stains that you can choose, like tung oil, that is food safe. So you can literally just use it as a cutting board, and I definitely have done that. It's kind of nice. I like them. I wasn't so sure about them at the beginning because I've every house I've ever seen and been in has had granite as a countertop, and I really like the look. But yeah, I'm turned to the wood ones. They're pretty nice, and they're
Okay.
very affordable too.
What was that? What was that tongue oil that you would use?
So it's just it's a natural food safe oil. So instead of using a toxic sort of stain or something like that that has maybe some unwanted chemicals that you don't want on your food. I don't know exactly what tung oil is derived from, but I don't think it's tongues. But it's food safe, and it does provide some color to the wood, so it acts like a stain, but it just saturates the wood and keeps it from drying out and cracking or warping. It works as a good sealant too.
Sure, absolutely. Did you do any work to maybe the exterior, the garage, the patio, or strictly inside?
Oh, I forgot about that. Thank you for mentioning that. So I haven't touched the outside of the house as much yet. That is planned future. Um, but I did. So there was originally a little small, I think it was 12-foot long by 10-foot wide little patio in the back. So I did not end up buying. So the state fair's in Dallas, and after it was over 1 year, they get rid of a lot of stuff for cheap. So I found some pavers that they were getting rid of, and I got 2 or 3 truck beds full of pavers for $25, and I brought them back to the house. I still have a bunch of extras, even after doing all this. So I brought it back to the house, and I ended up extending my patio with little pavers, and turned out pretty well. Another thing I learned how to do from YouTube. But I knew I wanted a bigger patio, and that ended up being the cheapest way to do it, and it worked out pretty well. Um, Exterior. The other thing I did is so whenever we built the closet in the master bedroom, where the closet is, there was originally an exterior window on the exterior wall. So we took that window out, and it was really hard to find, but we found some siding that matched, because my siding is like a faux stucco. So I found something that closely matched, and we patched up that hole. But I really think that's about, besides a new front door, I think that's about all the exterior work I've done.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So what is it that's special about owning a home as opposed to you renting? What makes this a little different for you?
So for me, what I wanted to do, well, number one, I needed a yard, so can't really get that in an apartment. And yeah, I could have rented a house, but for me, especially after all, because I have gone through the entire Rich Dad series. Um, yeah, but I didn't want to. I wanted to pay equity into my own place somewhere that I owned instead of giving that money to someone else. In the most simple explanation, I wanted to be able to still have the money that I put into something instead of giving it away.
That makes a lot of sense. Well, Colin, is there anything that you haven't said that you'd really just like to hammer home?
No, man, I think your questions were pretty good.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Well, maybe someone's watched this. Maybe they want a few tips about, working with the kitchen, the living room. Where can we find you?
Sure. Well, I'm on Facebook. I don't really have any professional stuff because I'm not a professional at this. But yeah, you can look me up on Facebook and shoot me a message if you've got any questions. Again, not a professional, but I can give words from my experience on what I've done. I'm happy to do that. But yeah, you can find me on Facebook, Collin Gibbs. Yeah.
Absolutely, man. I was really impressed how you just jumped in, you took the initiative to do it. And, when you didn't know something, you just figured it out. And I thought that was wonderful.
Thanks. Yeah, uh, I don't think there's something you can't learn online nowadays. There's so much out there that if you don't know how to do something, it takes a little bit on your part, a little bit extra work, but it's something you can learn and you know how to do forever now. And that's another reason why I really wanted to do this. Is I wanted to learn how to do it, and now I know. So my next houses, next investment properties, I can do it all.
That's right. That's right. It's just the beginning.
Exactly. Yeah, we got a long way to go. I'm pretty young still.
That's awesome, Colin. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I sure learned a heck of a lot about, a lot of DIY, rehabbing sort of things. So that was terrific. Thank you so much.
Yeah, dude. Of course, it was great to talk to you.
Absolutely. All right. We'll talk to you soon, Colin.
All right, bud. We'll see you.